The board is set. All the major players in the One Piece world are geared up for the final war to end all wars. But not all players in this war are equal. Like a giant game of Risk, the entire story has been about various factions building their forces, their weapons, their assets, their strategy, and their territories, but now that everyone is about to go all in, the big question is, how strong is each player at the starting point of this war? In total, there are 7 major factions set to contend for dominion of the seas. The Straw Hat Pirates, the Blackbeard Pirates, the Red-Haired Pirates, Cross Guild, the Revolutionaries, the Marines, and the Celestial Dragons. Yes, I am separating the Marines and the Celestial Dragons for reasons that I will explain later in this video. So looking at these 7 factions, if we break down each one's strengths and weaknesses, their individual fighters, their overall numbers, their allies, their weapons, their resources and information, who is looking like the strongest heading into the final war? Who is lagging behind? And where do the Straw Hats themselves stack up among the ranks of the competition? So strap in for a comprehensive breakdown of the true competitive state of the One Piece world. And if you want a smoother way to shave your body, you can get 20% off Manscaped's lawnmower today. Manscaped is the sponsor for this video, and they just rolled out the White Hot Lawnmower Ultra 5.0, specifically designed so that you can stay fresh down there during the summer. This is literally the best manscaping tool that you can get on the market, with next-gen dual skin-safe blade heads. This model makes it so easy to shave down there because it's designed to feel smooth on the skin. So you can get yourself groomed a lot faster without having to worry about any sort of nicks or cuts in sensitive areas. Seriously, with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, I can be done in like 30 seconds or less. And it leaves a sleek and smooth finish that just feels good. And this edition comes in a white hot color scheme if that's your thing. So just head over to manscaped.com and grab yours now. When you use my promo code MORGE, you will get 20% off plus free international shipping at checkout. That's 20% off plus free shipping with promo code MORGE at manscaped.com. Link in the description below. Make this summer the smoothest one yet. So to begin with, coming in at number 7, we have Cross Guild. While we can assume that Mihawk himself is comfortably quote-unquote Yonko level, and beyond that we have Crocodile, who we could generously say is comparable to traditional Yonko first mates, after perhaps leveling up since the time skip, that's pretty much it. Yeah, they have Das Bones, but unless you think Das Bones is like as strong as Doflamingo at this point, it's unlikely he's really Yonko Commander level. So really Cross Guild is just Mihawk and Crocodile. It's just 2 guys, Das Bones as a little bonus, and then a bunch of garbage. Yes, Buggy's got a big fleet, but they are trash. Remember, they were largely formed from the lowest levels of Impel Down. They technically did gain some new recruits over the time skip, but officially the best recruits they ever even got was just Hajrudin and his new giant pirate buddies. As a reminder, Hajrudin could barely even beat Makvis, so Hajrudin is absurdly weak, and he and his subordinates were literally Buggy's top 5 strongest members, and Buggy doesn't even have them anymore. To put it in perspective, Buggy's fleet is so weak that they nearly got wiped out immediately by a single batch of Marines post-Shichibukai abolishment, and Crocodile had to swoop in and single-handedly save them by casually low-diffing said batch of Marines. So yeah, Buggy's fleet is garbage with genuinely 0 military value. Cross Guild is just a 2-man show. But here's the good news for Cross Guild. My sense is that this organization is supposed to be a work in progress. It only formed because the Shichibukai system was abolished, so the remnants had to join forces, meaning the guild could become a hub for more free agents to join in the future. It is a guild after all. Maybe we see Cross Guild go on a bit of a recruiting spree now that they've thrown their hat into the race for One Piece. For example, maybe they could try to free Weevil, another former Shichibukai, to try to get him to join. The problem with the recruiting spree idea is that I think a lot of good free agents may not want to join. For example, Hancock hates all men, and she'd probably only want to team up with Luffy. Cross Guild is also so far behind other organizations that it's going to take a lot of recruiting just to catch up. So while I could definitely see Cross Guild becoming stronger soon, that would really just be to bridge the gap between them and everyone else. I don't know if they can actually rocket up the rankings all the way to the top spots. Now after Cross Guild we have the Blackbeard Pirates. Note, this is just the Blackbeard Pirates right now. They will likely be top 3 in terms of overall strength by the end of the story, but at this moment in time they are very clearly being written as still developing. Note, I am also ranking them here specifically without counting Aokiji. If I were to count Aokiji, then the Blackbeard Pirates would rank higher right now, but I am not counting Aokiji as the story is making it painfully clear that Aokiji is not a true Blackbeard pirate, meaning he is not genuinely trying to make the Blackbeard Pirates take over the world. He is simply with them to further his own agenda. Because Aokiji is not actually trying to make Blackbeard king of the world, that means that when push comes to shove, Aokiji cannot be counted on as a reliable piece in Blackbeard's assets in the endgame war. So Aokiji aside, to start with, the Blackbeard Pirates have a fleet and subordinate pirate crews underneath them, but so far none are notable. Pinkbeard is the only one we've seen, and he lost to a milkmaid. So the real strength is just Blackbeard and his core crew. And so far, the core crew is a bit weaker than what you expect for a Yonko. In general, there's been a trend of the Blackbeard Pirates being non-factors against strong characters. Garp, by himself, far past his prime, was able to handle the majority of the Blackbeard Pirates single-handedly and treat them as a distraction while he focused on fighting Aokiji, while also simultaneously protecting all his subordinates. There was not a single Blackbeard Pirate who could keep Garp engaged for more than a single panel. Even Shiryu, the first mate, only got in one sneak attack before Garp took care of him. And before this incident, Aokiji casually took out the majority of the Blackbeard Pirates on his way to the bar completely unscathed. Boa Hancock zero-diffed the Blackbeard Pirates who showed up to her island. Law was completely unfazed when several Blackbeard Pirates ganged up on him, and their ambush barely had any impact as it simply turned into a 1v1 with Law just fighting against Blackbeard. This is a far, far cry from what we've seen of other Yonko's top fighters. I mean, Zoro's out here scarring Kaido 1v1, Sanji stopping Kizaru's lasers, Jozu was able to injure Aokiji and stall him literally by himself for some time, Vista was acknowledged by Mihawk, Marco's driven away Big Mom by himself, and yet the Blackbeard Pirates have just been a running train of being unimpressive even in groups against any strong characters that they face. However, here's the key. That's the point. The Blackbeard Pirates are supposed to still be developing. That's why Oda specifically has them state that they are still mastering their fruits. Hell, they're still in the process of collecting fruits. They are supposed to grow into endgame threats, but the point is they are not there yet. Blackbeard himself clearly still has room to grow as well, just based on comparing how Blackbeard had to have an extended battle with Law to Shanks' ability to immediately stomp Kid, or the fact that Blackbeard is still not confident in fighting someone like Rayleigh. So while the Blackbeard Pirates are a bit behind the standards of a Yonko crew at the moment, they are set for the highest upward mobility of any faction. The crew will get a lot stronger as they master their fruits very soon, and Blackbeard himself will very likely have a third broken fruit soon enough, which would make him near unstoppable. And most importantly, the Blackbeard Pirates just got access to knowledge of 2 ancient weapons, and I would bet they managed to get their hands on at least one of them. So a low rank at the moment, but a very high ceiling. At 5, we have the Revolutionary Army. Considering we've seen commanders like Sabo, Morley, and Karasu stall admirals who were stated to be holding back, much in the same way that Whitebeard's commanders stalled admirals who were probably holding back at Marineford, it feels like the Revolutionary Army's commanders should be viewed as similar to a standard Yonko crew's commanders. Dragon himself can be safely assumed to be Yonko level as well. However, the reason the Revolutionary Army doesn't rank higher is because beyond their core members, their overall assets are unclear. We know they've incited revolutions in many countries and turned the people of those islands to their cause, and therefore they likely have a large overall force to draw upon, but it's vague what exactly this looks like. Are these typical nations with standard citizens like we saw with the recruits from Lelucia Kingdom? Because that would mean the Revolutionary Army has decent numbers, but not really high quality. The real question is, do the Revolutionaries have any extremely powerful allies on their side, like the Straw Hats have Minks and Samurai and so on? Until we get a better idea of the Revolutionary Army's overall resources, right now I can't rank them much higher. Plus, they don't really know about the ancient weapons. However, the Revolutionaries do have a great shot in terms of upward mobility, because as dissent against the world government increases, the Revolutionary Army will start to look like a great option for powerful players to join, and maybe powerful nations as well. We already see the Revolutionary Army surging in growth after Sabo's reputation as the Flame Emperor took off, so that gives them terrific upward mobility potential as the beacon of hope against the world government. Coming in at number 4, right in the middle of the pack, we have the Red-Haired Pirates. So the Red-Haired Pirates seem to have the standard strength of a Yonko crew. It's been stated that their individual core members are particularly strong for a Yonko crew, but at the same time their affiliated fleets are extraordinarily weak, so it about balances out to average. However, I place the Red-Haired Pirates above the Revolutionaries and the Blackbeard Pirates because they have one key ally that is a tremendous asset, and that is the nation of Elbaf. Elbaf is canonically the mightiest nation in the entire world. Much like Wano, Elbaf is too strong for the world government to even try to go near, and the average giant fighter is basically the strongest foot soldier on the planet, to the point that one of the biggest arms races in the One Piece world has been literally various factions trying to manufacture gigantification so that they can make their own giant army. And Big Mom straight up believed that if she could get the Elbaf giants on her side, that she would have enough of an advantage to become Pirate King. The Red-Haired Pirates already have the supremely valuable asset that all the other factions crave. And we can see exactly why these giants are so valuable right now in the Egghead arc. An entire Marine Buster Call is being stomped with zero effort by the giant pirates. Dory and Brogy have even been impactful fighting against the Gorosei, who are among the strongest beings alive. And this is just a small group of giants. We haven't even gotten to the core members of the kingdom. Essentially, the Red-Haired Pirates having an ally like Elbaf makes for a combined military force that is simply a cut above the others ranked below. However, I think this is about as good as it gets for the Red-Haired Pirates. Out of all the factions, I think they have the lowest upward mobility. There are no new alliances for them on the horizon, and it's still very likely that the Red-Haired Pirates are set to lose soon to the fast-rising Blackbeard Pirates. So it's unlikely narratively that the Red-Haired Pirates will progress much further. They are likely already at their peak. Before we get to the top 3, there is one hidden faction not on this list that may end up ranking highly as well, which I will be discussing on my weekly podcast, which you can get by supporting me on Patreon, link in the description below. At 3, I actually have the Marines. If the Marines and the Celestial Dragons were to be counted under one umbrella as the world government, then of course the Marines would be at the top. However, the narrative ever since Doflamingo's speech has been repeatedly going out of its way over and over to distinguish the Marines and the Celestial Dragons as separate entities, which makes sense as the endgame is clearly heading towards the Celestial Dragons attempting to flood the world to wipe out all humans across the globe, including the Marines and their families and their loved ones, meaning by the absolute endgame, the Marines would no longer be on the same side as the Celestial Dragons, as I elaborate on in this video. Since Akainu's goal is to protect citizens, not flood the planet, functionally these will have to be separate entities. As such, evaluating the strength of just the Marines, well, at the time of Marineford, it seemed like the Marines had a huge gap over the other factions. I mean, the Whitebeard Pirates' core fleet plus their combined allied forces of countless elite New World pirates made for a gigantic military force that is arguably more robust than any of the factions ranked 4 through 7 on this list. And yet the Marines still destroyed them without ever really being in danger of losing. However, things are not so simple today. A lot has changed for the Marines, such that the gap between them and the remaining factions has shrunk a lot. The Marines no longer have the Shichibukai, the Seraphim are obedient to the Celestial Dragons, not the Marines, and the Pacifista also obey the Celestial Dragons, not the Marines. Garp is captured and Sengoku is retired, Aokiji is gone. The Marines today are a far cry from the force that once crushed the Whitebeard Empire at Marineford. Yes, we have new replacement admirals, but I don't get the sense that Green Bull is quite as strong as Aokiji, and I don't count Fujitora as an asset on the Marines' side, because it's clear that Fujitora is not actually going to side with the Marines when push comes to shove. In both Dressrosa and the Reverie battle, Fujitora went against the Marines' directives, first siding with the Straw Hat Pirates, and then straight up fighting against his fellow Admiral Green Bull, so that the enemy, the revolutionaries, could succeed in their goals. Fujitora follows his own sense of justice, which directly contradicts Akainu's, so Fujitora is objectively not an actual asset that Akainu could command against his enemies. So far, Fujitora has consistently sided with the enemy rather than Akainu's orders. So at this point, the Marines are essentially just Akainu, Kizaru, and Green Bull, and then a bunch of Vice Admirals. Now, Akainu, Kizaru, Green Bull, and a bunch of Vice Admirals is still really formidable. At a certain point, sheer overwhelming numbers do matter, which is what the Marines have. They just have by far the most numbers of any group from top to bottom, and it's a lot of quality fighters. They have plenty of giants just like the Red-Haired Pirates, and scores of Vice Admirals are an important factor. The strongest Vice Admirals can even assist in overwhelming higher tier characters, so the Marines should still rank in the top 3. Unfortunately, the Marines have terrible upward mobility and will actually likely continue to devolve as no one is joining the Marines these days, citizens are killing them left and right and turning them in for bounties, and there's severe internal division that could lead to more defections. At this point, there's even a pirate crew that's passed up the Marines. That's right, at number 2 we have the Straw Hat Pirates. Our little band of heroes has made it all the way up the ranks to become literally the second strongest faction on the entire planet. Take a step back and consider the full forces that the Straw Hats would have on their side if they chose to go into all-out war today and shout it out for all of their allies to come help them. Note, I'm only even going to count the forces that have officially, verbally committed themselves to the Straw Hats. I'm not even going to count nations like Dressrosa, that Straw Hats have befriended but not technically allied with, or Marco and the Heart Pirates just because the Straw Hats have worked with them before but not permanently officially allied with them. I'm literally only going to count verbal commitments, and with that, the Straw Hats' full forces are first of all themselves, a clear Yonko caliber crew, then their remarkably strong Grand Fleet, which is clearly stronger than the subordinate fleets of, say, the Red-Haired Pirates or the Black-Beard Pirates that we've seen so far. And finally, in terms of official allies, the Straw Hats have the entire nation of Wano on their side, a nation that is only second to Elbaf in terms of military strength, meaning they get all the Scabbards and Yamato and all the samurai, and on top of that, they get the nation of Zou on their side, which by the way, also means they have Zunisha, as Momonosuke commands Zunisha. And on top of that, they have all of Fishman Island on their side, which is the second strongest race in the world and absolutely broken in naval combat, plus the Sun Pirates by default as an extension of Jinbei. And on top of all that, they have freaking Boa Hancock and Amazon Lily. This force alone is fucking insane. Yes, the Marines have numbers, but the Straw Hats also have enough numbers that at a certain point, the sheer quality of the Straw Hats' forces begins to win out. Do you realize how many total Yonko commander level characters would be in the Straw Hats Armada? Do you realize that Boa Hancock alone would wreak havoc on vast numbers of any opposing faction just through her ability? Do you realize that Zunisha is a weapon of mass destruction that can solo entire fleets and Yonko commander level characters by itself? And here is the absolute kicker above all else. Shirahoshi. The Straw Hats have an ancient weapon on their side. Fishman Island follows Luffy, and Shirahoshi is committed to following Luffy. There is not a single group on the planet that would have any hope of challenging the Straw Hats at sea. If the Straw Hats rolled up to Marineford tomorrow with all their combined forces, it's over for the Marines. We've already seen that the Scabbards and Yamato together can match Green Bull. Luffy versus Akainu, let's say, cancels out, and at that point, it's up to Kizaru alone to handle the likes of Zoro, Sanji, Hancock, and so on. Because guess what? At this point, the mid-tier Straw Hats can absolutely fodderize Vice Admirals. This Buster Call at Egghead is legitimately a joke to them. Add in the Grand Fleet, and an island-sized elephant that will be one-shotting scores of battleships and Vice Admirals left and right, and a literally endless rain of Sea Kings coming down on the Marines from all sides, it would be a massacre. In terms of upwards mobility, the Straw Hats may get even more official allies as the story progresses, but it's hard to imagine them passing up the number 1 spot. Because at 1 we have the Celestial Dragons. To start with, they just have by far the most top-heavy power. Most every other faction I've listed so far only has one really top-tier character, and then the rest of the faction is generally characters considered to be below Admiral level. But with the Celestial Dragons, all 5 Gorosei are arguably portrayed to be Admiral level or maybe even above, with Warkiri at this point showcasing feats that would be impressive even by the standards of Kaido or Big Mom. But it's not just the Gorosei. There are also the mysterious Gods Knights, who are led by Shanks' own father, who may very well have been comparable to Whitebeard in his prime considering the implication of this scar. And then we have Imu himself, who is more likely than not the strongest being on the planet. And then on top of all that, we have the Seraphim, who are only in their child state and are already posing problems for even a Yonko and his first mate. All 7 of these at full adulthood strength would essentially be like having a whole new set of Shichibukai on the Celestial Dragon's side, as that was the intent from the start. But not only are the Celestial Dragons broken in terms of their top fighters, but also in terms of their foot soldiers, the Pacifista, each of whom is equivalent in value to a Navy battleship and each as strong as the entire pre-timeskip Straw Hats. The Celestial Dragons are just overpowered, and that's why it's likely that it will take the efforts of more than just one faction to beat them. The Revolutionaries and the Straw Hat Empire may have to join forces, and many other independent nations may have to get involved as well. Upward mobility doesn't matter for the Celestial Dragons as they are already number 1. So let me know if you agree with the rankings in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video then definitely like and subscribe. And if you want to hear about one other potential faction that may emerge and could even rank highly, then you can get my extended thoughts on my weekly podcast by supporting me on Patreon, link in the description below.